ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यङ्करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै ॐ शान्ति। The topic Kshara, Akshara and Uttama Purusha. We'll read the topic first.
Kshara, Akshara, Uttama Purusha. The Bhagavad Gita gives an eloquent definition of God, Brahman, in three potent terms: Kshara, perishable; Akshara, imperishable; and Uttama Purusha, supreme being. Kshara, perishable, refers to the manifest worlds of the waking dream and deep sleep. These worlds are subject to change. They appear and disappear, hence said to be perishable. And Akshara, imperishable, is the changeless substratum of the perishable worlds. But then the Akshara, imperishable, is related to, connected with the Kshara, perishable, akin to the illusion of the snake projected upon a rope. The snake is perishable while the rope is its imperishable part, the substratum of the snake. But then the perishable snake is related to the imperishable rope. The third, Uttama Purusha, Supreme Being, is the most potent part of the definition which transcends the Kshara, perishable, and the Akshara, imperishable. Brahman is all-pervading and not limited, restricted to the perishable world and its imperishable substratum. It transcends all boundaries, pervades the world, the substratum, and exists beyond them as well. A simple illustration of the Trinity is used in the explanation of God. The example of pots made of mud. Imagine a person having no knowledge of mud. He asks you to explain what mud is. The only sample of mud in his apartment is 3 mud pots in red, blue, and green colors. You point them out to him, that is mud. He misunderstands mud to be of that particular form and color. You then correct his misconception. Pulverizing the pots into powder, you explain to him the form and color are variable, perishable, while mud is the imperishable aspect, the stuff, material of the pots. His conception of mud now is confined only to the powder in his apartment. To correct this second misconception, you elucidate further. Mud lies all over the world beyond the pots and the powder in the apartment, beyond the perishable and imperishable aspects of the pots. Thus, the 3 steps become essential to educate him gradually when no direct experience of mud is possible. Similarly, Kshara, Akshara, Uttama Purusha, the 3 steps help to visualize the infinitude of God.
Now, in the lesson, we are trying to read, we are trying to understand the infinitude nature of Brahman. Trying to understand what this Brahman is all about. So various ways they are attempting to teach us what Brahman is. The reference here in this particular topic is from Bhagavad Gita. Akshara, Akshara, Uttama Purusha. The 15th chapter is called Purushottama Yoga. The 15th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita is called Purushottama Yoga. And the word Purushottama Yoga came because of this word Uttama Purusha. Uttama Purusha is Purushottama is nothing but the reverse of Uttama Purusha. So, the 15th chapter itself is called Purushottama Yoga because of this definition, Uttama Purusha. Now we will see that very one of the subtle portions in the Bhagavad Gita itself is these three words: the Akshara, the Uttama Purusha, the Trinity. Akshara is perishable. A means non in Sanskrit. Akshara is perishable. Akshara. Akshara. So it is prefixed with A. When it is prefixed with A, it means it is non. So non-perishable, imperishable. So Akshara is perishable. Akshara is imperishable. If we are stopped with Kshara and Akshara, it becomes easy. Everything is perishable. God is imperishable. That is a very straightforward explanation. There is no. It's very clear to understand. But then he says, beyond this Kshara and Akshara is Uttama Purusha. When you are sitting for your reflection, refer these two verses, chapter 15, 16 and 17. Chapter 15, verses 16 and 17 is these two verses. Beautifully he started. Vavimau Purushau Loke Ksharakshara Evacha. Sarvani Bhutani Kutastokshara Yuchyate. This verse is very straightforward. We'll read that verse. Next verse he says, Uttama Purushas Anyaha. Distinct and different from the Kshara and Akshara is Uttama Purusha. Uttama Purushas Anyaha, and that Uttama Purusha is called Paramatma. And the Uttama Purusha is called Paramatme Yudakrita. And that Uttama Purusha pervades the whole world. That's how he concludes. Now, this is the three ways of understanding Brahman. Before we go into this, we'll just read this. We'll understand these three words first. Tara, perishable. First, we saw there are two components, matter and spirit. Unnecessarily, he is bringing in a third component and confusing. Till now, it was very clear. There are two things. There is matter and then there is spirit. And it is the spirit that enlivens the matter. It is inert. It is insentient. And there is this consciousness that comes and enlivens all that we have seen. And we were very eloquent there also in understanding consciousness is not part of the matter. Consciousness is not product of the matter. I don't know what all we said. All that we said about consciousness. Very clear. Now we thought something about Brahman, we knew. Suddenly he's saying, no, that is Akshara, and then there is Uttama Purusha. So you feel like telling Krishna, make up your mind. Finally tell us how many gods are. Yeah, finally tell us how many gods are. Akshara, Akshara, and then next verse, next chapter, he is saying there is the fourth fellow. And then he says there is a fifth. Where do we? First we'll understand these three words. Kshara is perishable. The manifest matter is perishable. The unmanifest matter is imperishable. So first you understand perishable means manifest matter. The imperishable is the unmanifest matter. That is why if you break down everything to the core, it will come to some basic component of matter. That is imperishable. The name and form is perishable. That which this name and form is made up of is imperishable. Akshara. This body, this height, this weight, this color, all this is kshara, perishable. That which is made up of is the 5 elements, Panchabhutas, that is imperishable. That is Vedantic way of saying it's all 5 elements. Science will say it's atoms, something. Now we are not discussing who's right, who's wrong here. But there is a perishable and then there is an imperishable. And then we have the third thing, Uttama Purusha, that which gives vitality to the perishable and the imperishable, Uttama Purusha. This is a very easy way of understanding, and then we'll first we will make it look easy, and then we will complicate it. First we will think, wow, correct, and then 2-3 things we'll say it gets very confusing. Therefore, what you can call it as the manifest matter. The body, the mind, the intellect is Kshara. The vasanas becomes Akshara. Okay, before we go into that, even in the gross body, before we take up the gross body and the subtle body, the gross body itself, mentally keep making a note, it becomes easy to follow. Gross body itself, there is Kshara and Akshara. The Kshara of the gross body is the name, the form, the height, the skin, the bone, I don't know what all goes into the gross body. Now, this is perishable. This body perishes, but the basic material with which the body is made up of doesn't perish. That is Akshara, imperishable. That is imperishable. Now, what is the body made up of? For argument's sake, we study the Vedantic anatomy. Yeah? If you are not really convinced about Vedantic anatomy, it doesn't matter. For we are not discussing about the anatomy here. There is the manifest matter. There is something that is manifest, and then there is something that is imperishable. Imperishable means indestructible. Comes to the core, and then it is not subject to further modification or change is imperishable. Perishable means it goes through modifications. Imperishable means you come to a core after which it doesn't go through any changes, modifications. That is called imperishable. So you take the body. What is perishable in the body? The height, the weight, etc. All these are perishable. What is imperishable? The 5 elements are imperishable. Panchabhutas are imperishable. It means this Panchabhutas is Shashvatam, eternal. It could mean that. It could mean the 5 elements are Shashvatam, eternal. No, it is not so. Why? Because in the state of deep sleep, it doesn't exist. The state of deep sleep, it doesn't exist. Upon realization, it doesn't exist. Therefore, it is called relatively imperishable. So it is not absolutely imperishable. It is relatively imperishable in relation to the changes that happens in the body. Are you able to follow? So it is imperishable. When we say it is imperishable, it means you can give a absoluteness to imperishability. Absoluteness to imperishability means what? It will exist at all periods of time, and you cannot go out of it at all. That's what it means if we say imperishable. Then we correct this and say, no, 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 it is not imperishable in that sense. It is not imperishable in that sense. It is imperishable in a on a relative plane. It is imperishable. Are you okay? So there are these three things: Kshara, Akshara, Uttama Purusha. Of these two, Kshara and Akshara, the first two are inert. Now we are making a comparative study of the three components right through. We make a comparative study. Then only you will be able to follow. Make a comparative study. It is, we have seen that it is, the Kshara is also inert. The Akshara is also inert. The third component is consciousness. Here it is called Uttama. So he calls it as Kshara Purusha. He calls it as Akshara Purusha. He calls it as Uttama Purusha. He is giving a figurative things for three beings, he said. And why we discuss the Kshara, Akshara, Uttama Purusha is because it is one of the very unique usages in the entire Shastra. That's why we study these three words. Otherwise, it is generally called Prakriti. We will never use the word Kshara, Akshara and all. We will call it as matter, Prakriti, nature and all. These three words itself is very unique usage. Since it is used in a very unique way, we try to explore and understand what he is trying to say. Now what are we doing? We have defined Kshara, Akshara, Uttama Purusha. And then we are making a comparative study of the three components. Are you able to follow till now? The three comparative study of these components. The Kshara, the Akshara and the Uttama Purusha. Are you okay with the definitions of these three? Kshara, Akshara, Uttama Purusha definitions, are you okay? Don't ask any comparative things now. After that, we will ask. Yes.
The relative imperishable, you said 5 elements. Is it that you deliberately said 5 elements because the subtle body and cosmic body is also made up of 5 elements?
I said
Or they are different?
I said 5 elements to understand gross body. I didn't bring in mind and intellect at all yet.
Yes.
Why? Because let us start with that which is perceivable. Mind and intellect, we'll come to mind and intellect later. To make you understand that there is perishable and then there is imperishable, an example is given. What is the example? The body perishes. When the body perishes, does the 5 elements perish? When the body dies, does the 5 elements perish? No, they don't perish. That is why it is called, in relation to the body, the 5 elements are called imperishable. This is only to make you understand that what is perishable and what is imperishable. That's why I'm using it to study only about the gross body. When if you bring in mind and intellect and all that, straight away if you bring in mind and intellect, you miss the very elaboration that he is trying to do. So carefully follow what I am saying. Are you able to follow? Kshara, Akshara, Uttama Purusha. So there is the perishable aspect of the matter, and then there is an imperishable aspect of the matter, and then there is something that enlivens that. Uttama Purusha, it's called. It means what? The first comparative study. Huh? Are you able to follow? What is the first comparative study? The first two are inert. The first two is insentient. The third one is sentient, consciousness. Are you okay till now? I'm asking.
The gross body and the 5 elements are inert.
Yes. That which enlivens them is the consciousness. Second, the first two being principles made of material, it is full of properties and attributes and qualities called gunaha. It has gunas. It has gunas. The five elements has gunas. The mind and intellect has its own properties. Everything has its own gunas. Therefore, technically, the first two will be called sa gunaha and uttama purusha is nirgunaha. These are all some basic words. These are all some basic concepts you should remember. It is sa gunaha and uttama purusha is called nirguna. How do we say it is with gunas and without gunas? Them being matter, matter is made up of elements, and elements means it has their own properties and attributes. The third, the very fact that they have properties and attributes means it is subject to constant change, because matter can never remain static. Matter can never remain static. Matter means that which constantly keep changing. It's a constant change. Senses may not be able to perceive it. That is the limitation of the senses. But we understand what matter means, that which constantly changes. Are you able to follow till now? The very fact that it changes means you can divide them and put them into compartments. It is divisible. It goes through changes. The very fact that it changes means it can be divided and understood in components. It can be understood in parts. You can understand it in parts. That's why science always tries to divide and understands, because matter can be divided and it can be understood only by dividing. For example, body can be divided, no? Eyes, ears, nose, teeth, bones, flesh, I don't know what all is. The car can be divided into 500 mechanical parts. So matter means it is subject to change. At the same time, it is subjected to division, and everything in relation to the matter can be divided. It means the akshara can be divided. The akshara also goes through divisions. What is the division in akshara? Goes into unmanifest in the deep sleep state. It goes into unmanifest and it manifests again in the waking state. That is the division it goes through. It becomes unmanifest and manifest. 4 months, extreme summer. No mosquitoes. The first drizzle, the whole thing comes back. What they call as hibernation. Yeah. Unmanifest it is. So it goes into manifest and it goes into unmanifest. And the last important comparative study is important. Matter doesn't have an independent existence. Matter doesn't have an independent existence. Uttama Purusha has an independent existence. How do we say that? The pots don't have an independent existence from clay, and clay can exist independent of the pot. The pots can never tell the clay, give me a break. The pots can never tell the clay, give me a break. Wherever I'm going, why are you? Wherever I'm going, why are you coming with me? Just give me a break. I want to be free from you for a while. The pot can never, one pot can tell this to another pot. One pot can tell this to another pot, but the pot can never tell this to the clay. It means what? All has dependent existence and Uttama Purusha is independent. Now, get this background. With this background, we will go into the analysis. I just explained the three words and the comparative study. Now, we will go into this. Kshara and Akshara. First, temporarily, we'll try to understand Kshara and Akshara. And then we will add Uttama Purusha later. At the first level, Kshara means perishable. What is perishable? The body is perishable. Now, when we say body, we bring in a little bit of complication and we add up the subtle body also here. Now we bring in the subtle body. So whenever we talk about body, we mean the gross body and the subtle body. The body, mind, intellect. Gross body and the subtle body means the body, the mind, the intellect. So the perishable comprises what? The body, the mind and intellect. When we say the body, the mind and intellect perishes, what is the definition of perishing? We have seen that already. That's why we did the comparative study. Perishing doesn't mean it disappears. Perishing means it goes through constant changes. When we say perishable, please don't take it as dying, going out of existence. You can misunderstand the word perishable means dying and going out of existence. Here we don't say it like that because nothing can go out of existence like that. It only goes through modification, changes. So, what is Kshara now? The body, the mind and intellect is Kshara. What is the property of body, mind and intellect? The attribute, the property of body, mind and intellect, perception, action, emotion, thought. Because we said, that's why the comparative study is, and the preamble becomes easy to recollect. Now, body, mind, intellect, it has its own property, gunas. What is its property? Perception, action, emotion, thought. If body, mind, and intellect is subject to constant perishable, if we say body, mind, and intellect is perishable, it means what perishes? The perception, action, emotion. You cannot have a permanency here when the body, mind, intellect itself is changing. The body, mind, intellect, when the body, mind, intellect itself is changing, what changes along with it? Perception, action, emotion, and thought. So what is perishable now? So what is perishable? Exactly correct. Perception, action, emotion, thought. These are subject to change. When we say subject to change, it is constantly changing. That's why he always gives this example. The person walking into the room is not the person who is walking out. They changed. The body changes. The emotions with which you come is not the emotion with which you are going. You come in ignorant, confused, and you go out wise, no? It happens, no? Every time out of the class when you go. Or at least more confusion. Definitely there is a modification either way. But it can't be exactly like how you came and how you go. It can't be like that. Unless you are in coma or something, isn't it? Are you able to follow? At least either the confusion will get deeper or so either way there is a change. Are you able to follow? So this is kshara, perishable. The basic material with which this kshara is made up of is akshara, imperishable. That is vasanas, relatively. So here kshara becomes body, mind, intellect. Akshara becomes vasanas. Just as in the comparative study we said body means the 5 elements. Similarly, body, mind, intellect is perishable means vasanas become imperishable. When we say vasana is imperishable, it's not permanently imperishable. It means it has a much longer duration. The longevity is more. That's all it means. And since it is so long, we can call it as imperishable. How many janmas we have gone through? We don't know. In how many janmas, how many different forms we have taken? That also we don't know. But all that perished. But what made what is keeping the movement going from body to body to body? Vasanas. In that sense, it is imperishable. I will follow. I would have been a lion. Could have been a mosquito once. I could have been a cockroach once. Yeah, I could have been a rat once. I could have been a fish once. I could have been a monkey once. Yeah. He says in the Shiva Puranam, yeah, the Shiva Puranam, he makes a complete list of what all forms he has went through. Yeah. Beautifully he says. Start from the blade of grass, he starts. Start from the blade of grass, he starts. Yeah. That is all kshara. And vasanas that made you go through that is akshara. Pullai, Pundai, Pulvai, Maramai, he says. Alvirgamai means various types of trees, birds. Sometimes maybe Asura also once. Asurarai, Munivarai, maybe God also once. So it means you go through various forms, which is kshara. And what is akshara? Vasana is akshara. Relatively speaking, the body changes and the vasana is changeless. Vasana means the root that which drives that which necessitates an embodiment. Vasana is the stuff that makes you to experience something. And if you have to experience something, you need a body to experience. Vasana is the core stuff that necessitates an experience. And to experience, you need a body. And depending on the vasana, you get an appropriate body. Yes, the need for an experience. You able to follow? Depending on the vasana, you get an appropriate embodiment. Maybe a mosquito, yeah, cockroach, or maybe a Komodo, dragon, we don't know. It could be, the spectrum is, it's a very, yeah, almost an infinite, almost appears to be an infinite spectrum. That is Kshara. That which drives everything is Akshara. The bodies undergo change, but the sense of wanting to experience something, the necessity to experience something doesn't change. That is Vasana. But that Vasana also is Kshara. But that Vasana is also Kshara. How? When you make considerable effort, your Vasanas change. When you make considerable effort, your Vasanas change. Therefore, Vasanas also becomes perishable. Even though it takes
A lot.
even though it takes a lot of effort and everything, but still it is perishable. So first we say this is Kshara and Vasana is Akshara. And then we come on to say, no, Vasana itself is Kshara, because if you put in considerable effort and time, you change the Vasanas also. So it means Vasanas is also Kshara, perishable. Upon enlightenment, this Shastram is the Pramanam for this. In this, for this statement that I am going to make now, Shastram is the Pramanam for that. Upon enlightenment, Vasanas perishes completely, destroys completely. So in that sense, Vasanas is also Akshara means Brahman. Akshara here means the Atman, Brahman, God. 2 verses he explains this. This is up to verse number 16 of the Bhagavad Gita. If we stay with this, there is no. If he has concluded with this verse, it becomes very, very easy. What he did in the 17th verse, he introduced the third word, Anyaha, other than the two. Other than the Kshara and Akshara is Uttama Purushas Anyaha, and that Uttama Purusha Arjuna is called that Anya Purusha. That Anya Purusha is called Uttama Purusha. And what is that Uttama Purusha? Paramatma, he says. Paramatma. Now again, we explain the third word also. Now we explain the third word. What is the third word? Uttama Purusha. How do we explain this Uttama Purusha now? Because in the previous verse itself, we have concluded Akshara means Brahman. Body, mind, intellect changes, perishes. Upon enlightenment, everything is gone. Therefore, Akshara itself means Brahman. If you have been carefully following, where he has concluded Akshara itself is Brahman, then what is the second Brahman now? As an Uttama Purusha. That's where the confusion comes. That's where the confusion comes. For which he said, no. Such a extraordinary concept, this Uttama Purusha, because even the imperishable is intellectually conceivable in relation to perishable. Even the Akshara, imperishable, is something that is intellectually conceivable in relation to the Akshara. And Brahman cannot be intellectually conceived. Therefore, it is Anya Purusha, Uttama Purusha, different. Anya Purusha, different. Yeah. அதுதான் அந்நியன் அப்படின்ற மூவி வந்தது இல்லையா, அதுதான் அந்நியன்னா டிஃப்ரெண்ட்னு அர்த்தம் இல்லையா. இட் கேம் ஃப்ரம் தட். அந்நியா மீன்ஸ் டிஃப்ரெண்ட் பர்சன், different from Kshara and Akshara. It means what? The Akshara, God is imperishable. You get some vague notion of what? You get some vague idea. You get some vague notion of what God is, for which he wants to correct that and say, God is beyond this Kshara and beyond this Akshara. Inconceivable. And that inconceivable pervades everything. And that inconceivable pervades everything. Why does he have to bring in Uttama Purusha? If he doesn't bring in Uttama Purusha, the imperishable has a role of supporting the perishable. Able to follow? The imperishable has a role. What is the role of imperishable? The imperishable has to support the perishable. Therefore, we have a, that is why we say, what is the role of God? நம்மளெல்லாம் காப்பாத்துறது தானே. The imperishable has to support the perishable. So what is the role of God? It's very straightforward. It is very clear. What is the role of God? He has to, I am perishable and God is imperishable. That imperishable God has to support and protect the perishable. Vedanta comes and says that notion of God has to be broken. That misunderstanding about God has to be broken. Therefore, beautifully he brings in the Uttama Purusha concept. That's why in this topic we are studying this Kshara, Akshara and Uttama Purusha. Are you able to follow? Otherwise, the imperishable has a specific role of supporting the, has a very specific role of supporting the perishable. And you can't fix any specific role, you cannot fix any specific understanding to God. The supreme being that pervades the entire waking world, dream world and deep sleep, supports everything. You get some idea, no? When we say all this, you get some idea. What is the idea you get? Enlivens and sustains. It enlivens, it sustains, it pervades. The Akshara can be misunderstood as the enlivener, sustainer, pervading the entire Kshara and Kshara. You can say that. No. You cannot come to any understanding of, you cannot come to any instrumental understanding of God. You can never even have a vague idea of God through any one of the instruments. That's what he is attempting. If you cannot have even a vague idea through these instruments, அப்புறம் என்ன சார் பண்றோம் இங்க? Then what are we doing here? Then what are we doing here? So கேட்கலாம் நல்லா இருக்குதுன்னு கேட்டுன்னு இருக்கோம், அவ்வளவுதான் சார். We are not really actually we are not really convinced about what Vedanta says and all. Don't mistake us like that. Yeah. Don't mistake us, sir. It's not that we are convinced about what Vedanta says. Very nice to hear and ஏதோ யூஸ்ஃபுல்லா இருக்குன்றதுக்கு தான் வரோமே தவிர இந்த க்ஷாரா அக்ஷர உத்தம புருஷன்லாம் why are you struggling so much to to explain, or these confusions we don't have at all. We have already established the Pramanam. A few sessions back, we have already established the authority. For God, what is the Pramanam? All worldly knowledges can be gotten through two Pramanams, Pratyaksha and Anumana, and rest are all further modifications of inference, that's all. Here and there some comparative study, some comparisons. So all worldly knowledges comes under Pratyaksha, Anumana, Upamana. Authority. The authority means what? It is 100% correct. Authority means it is 100% correct. As far as the color is concerned, eyes are 100% correct. That's why we call it as Pramanam. Are you able to follow? Now, when we say God is Uttama Purusha, it means what is the Pramanam? Pratyaksha, Anumana, Upamanam is not the Pramanam. Shastram is the Pramanam for that. But then, sir, you're not having all these questions. I myself is posing and answering, posing. So it is more like soliloquy. Yeah, the classes are more like soliloquy. Yeah, I'm talking to myself kind of. I ask the question and I answer it. But then, sir, in the first chapter only, we saw very clearly what? The evidence of the unknown. There we spend lot of time eloquently talking about the evidence of the unknown. ஓ அப்படி ஒரு டாபிக் இருக்கா சார் இந்த புக்கில்னா then we will do thesis on God again. After we finish the thesis, we'll restart the book again. So in the evidence of unknown, we used Pratyaksha, Anumana, Upamana to get something. And that what we gotten here, Uttama Purusha is dismissing it. That's why it is beautiful. That which the instruments seem to get some vague idea, Uttama Purusha, the concept of Uttama Purusha comes and says, not that. You cannot understand it in that way. So there are two indestructibles. One is Akshara, which is relatively imperishable, and then there is Uttama Purusha, that is absolutely not perishable. So, confusion. Rent imperishable. There are two imperishables now. Akshara is also imperishable. Uttama Purusha is also imperishable. Abdinna, we are stuck with two imperishables, for which we say one is cyclical, the unmanifest will definitely be followed by a manifest, and the manifest will definitely go into manifest. That's why we call it as manifest matter and unmanifest matter. For it is cyclical, this Uttama Purusha is Anyaha, beyond the manifest and unmanifest. Meaning, the Supreme God, the reality, Brahman, cannot be restricted to any, it cannot be restricted to any concepts. Yes.
I have two questions. First question, clay pot example when you talk about if Uttama Purusha is the substratum now, then it should naturally be a supporter for the relative imperishability and the perishability. Yeah?
Yes. The question that she is asking is, in the example of clay and the pot, is not clay the supporter of the pot? Is not clay the supporter of the pot? From the angle of the pot, now you have to see it from two angles. From the angle of the pot, clay has a specific role. What is the specific role that clay has from the angle of the pot? Support me. Clay is the support. Clay is the permanent supporter of the pot. So from the angle of the pot, and from the angle of the pot, if you look at the clay, what will never be understood? How can the clay exist as an independent entity without supporting? That the pot can never conceive. இது வந்து கொஞ்சம் கொஞ்சம் intellectual. You have to stretch a little bit to conceive all this. Are you able to follow? Again, I'm saying the pot can never ever conceive of a clay can have an independent existence without me, because pot is confined to what? Pot means no, it is confined to name and form. So it cannot conceive of anything beyond the name and form. So it means God also is brought in as a limited idea. What is the limited idea of God here? To support the name and form. Support the name and form. Protect the name and form. For which Uttama Purusha comes and says, the concept of God comes and says, you cannot restrict the role of God to a supporter.
So I need not be a supporter all the time.
Does that mean God doesn't? Does that mean God is not a supporter? That is already established. God is a Shuddha Sakshi Chaitanya. In its presence, everything happens. Electricity supports, at the same time, electricity doesn't. Electricity supports the fan. Electricity supports all the gadgets. In what way it supports? It makes the instrument to come alive. In that sense, it supports. It only makes the instruments come alive. That's all it does. Rest are all what the instrument does. Are you able to follow? Rest and all what the instrument does. It only enlivens it. The Kenopanishad, part 3 story, beautiful. Kenopanishad, part 3 story explains this. There is a fight. Always there is a fight. No. Life nale fight da. Struggle. Life itself means struggle. Struggle itself means fight. So peaceful life, impossible. Peaceful marriage, impossible. No. How is it possible? Marriage nale? Correct. Marriage, yeah. For you, yeah. We all belong to one Kakshi. You are the one. Yeah. 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 Because we all belong to one group, and you are the only non-married group here. Yeah. So there is only one child here sitting and married. Huh? So life itself means struggle. Fight. What is the fight? Kenopanishad story. Devas and Asuras, where they fought. There was a struggle. There was a fight. And gods won. Very rarely it happens. Always in a fight, the evil. So rarely it happened where the Devas won the battle. And as soon as they won the battle, they were they were having a party and enjoying. And they all thought that victory is achieved because of their own efforts. They thought that victory is achieved because of their own efforts. Brahman saw this and wanted to teach them. So it took Brahman appeared in a form that was not seen before. A form that wasn't seen before. a form that was not known before, and it appeared in a form. And when that form came, Devas got worried. Devas were worried. So they sent, yeah, first they sent Agni. யாருன்னு கேட்டுவா, go and find out who that person is. Agni came. Who are you? Agni is asking Brahman, who are you? Brahman is asking, who are you? Brahman is asking, who are you? How can you ask who am I? Because Agni, the presence of Agni is known even before Agni comes, because you start sweating, the presence of Agni is known. How can you ask who am I? He says, I am Agni. Aham Agni Jatavetah iti. Oh, yeah, okay, your name is Agni. Okay. What do you do? Who are you? I'm Aravindan. அது கேட்கலப்பா, that's your name. What do you do? What is your profession? Because you know the person by the profession. So it asks, what is your profession? என்ன வேலை பார்க்குறீங்க இல்லையா? You don't know my job. I don't know. What is it? I burn everything. Oh, அவ்வளோ பலம் இருக்குதா? ஓ, அவ்வளோ பவர்ஃபுல்லா? Brahman put a blade of grass in front and said, burn this. Agni could not even touch the blade. Agni went back, saying, I couldn't understand, for it is beyond my perception. I could not understand this form because it is beyond my perception and conception. Then they said, then they said, why you go. Because even if there is a minute gap, why you can enter. Yeah. Why you came? Same question. Why you asked Brahman, who are you? And Brahman asked, who are you? Who are you? I am Vayu. He said, blah, blah, blah. He said, oh, what is your profession? Same question. What do you do for, what is your profession? Now, what do you do for a living? Isn't it? What do you do for a living? I toss the planets. Yeah, that's what I toss the planets. Oh, okay. Move this blade of grass, and why you couldn't move? Went back. And all of them reported to Indra, saying that we don't know who that form is. Indra came reverentially. With devotion, Indra came to ask. As soon as Indra came, it disappeared. At least it had a conversation with Vayu and Agni. As soon as Indra came, the apparition, the Yaksha, disappeared. Indra stood there. பாட போயிட்டா இருப்பான்னு he didn't. சரி, நம்மளை பார்த்தோன்னே பயந்துட்டார் போல இருக்கு இல்லையா? Indra didn't misunderstand that situation. He stood there. He didn't go back. He stood. Aimavati appeared. He said, Aimavati Uma. The knowledge. Aimavati. There, Uma becomes the guru. Indra is the student and Uma the guru. The guru teaches Indra. Indra represents the mind and intellect. Vayu and Agni represents the grosser instruments. Grosser instruments எல்லாம் basic பிரயோஜனமே இல்லை. You just have to switch off. That's all. So So when mind and intellect came, and it came with reverence, devotion, and truth. Uma is the guru, and Indra is the student. Yachakshushan pashyati, yena chakshun bhushi pashyati, tadeva brahmatvam vidhi, nedam yadidam upasate. This is in part 1 of Kenopanishad. Uma appears in part 4. He repeats the same thing. Are you able to follow? It means what? You have a concept of God and you worship God. What is your concept of God? Protector, savior. And you restrict, it means it's such a narrow concept of God. It may satisfy your ego, it may satisfy. But for the true seeker, it is such a narrow concept of God. As though bringing God to the level of protector. Our watchman status key is reduced. Protector. No, sir, it's not just protector. We feed him also. We do pujas for him, we do sahasranama for him, and we make him. We do puja and feed him. We do sahasranama and emotionally pamper him. In return, what he does? Protects, saves. For a true seeker of God, this concept of God seems to be very, very, very narrow, constricted, restricted. Why it is very narrow, constricted, restricted? Because please remember the example that we gave. The frog in the well, all its understanding of the ocean will be in relation to the times of well. The sigma formula. You can put a sigma and you can put a formula, but everything will be connected to the number of times the well. Million times the well. 100 billion wells put together becomes the ocean. What number can match it? No numbers can. Uttama, the ocean is Uttama Purusha. Are you able to follow? To convey the magnitude, to convey the infinite status of Brahman is not easy. It's not easy at all. And they are embarking on something that is almost impossible to convey. They are trying to convey. And the truth is, the Shishya receives something also. It is not in the words. Through the words, something that is conveyed beyond the words. And who receives it? Who receives it? The Shishya, the qualified student, receives. Are you able to follow? Therefore, God as a supporter is very good only in relation to the limited part. But that is not God. It cannot be God. If we say God as the protector, what all follows immediately? What all follows immediately? You can't accept a universal protector. Protector means what? He has to paritranaya sadhuna vinashaya cha dushkritam. Protector means he has to protect the good. He can't protect the. Are you able to follow? The moment you bring in God as a protector, you get into absurd notions of God. Why? Because he has to protect the good and destroy the evil. Who created everything? Who's the creator? He is the creator. So he only creates. So if he is the creator, he created both good and bad. When he is created both good and bad, how can he be partial, supporting the good and not support the evil? இதுதான் சார் வேதாந்தெல்லாம் படிச்சா unnecessarily we will confuse us, and அதுதான் வேதாந்தெல்லாம் படிக்கவே கூடாது. That's why we said don't study Vedanta, sir. We are so clear. It's all laid out. It's very, very clear. Why are you are able to follow? The moment you bring in protector, you bring in a form. Now I'm explaining intellectually. The moment you bring in protector, you bring in a form. And a form is that an intellectual concept is a form. Are you able to follow? The intellectual concept is a form. It means the intellect is able to, the eyes can see the physical form. The emotions, the mind can identify with the emotion. The intellect can identify with its form, because every instrument can contact that respective form. What is the form that the intellect can contact? An idea. What is that idea? God is the savior. God is the protector. God is the creator. God is the savior, and God is the protector. Since he is the savior, you got to please him. How you have to please him? By joining his party. Yeah, to please him, join his party and vote against the Satan party. Yeah. How does it work? Therefore, Uttama Purusha is trying to explain, struggling to explain that through the instruments you can never get even a vague idea of God. Why? In every knowing, the knower and the known are separate. The knower and the known never becomes one. Here, the way to know Brahman is to become it. Are you able to follow? In all knowledges, the knower doesn't become the known, correct? You know an apple. Do you become an apple? You know a book. Do you become the book? You know these things. Do you become that? So knowing is not becoming. In as far as Brahman is concerned, knowing is becoming. Brahmavid Brahmaiva Bhavati. Therefore, it is so fundamentally different. And how to explain this as fundamentally different? They take enormous amount of logic and reason they bring in to explain this. Are you able to follow? Understand it like this, it becomes easy. Knowledge retains the Bheda, duality. Here, Aikyam, oneness, becoming. Worldly knowledges, the Bheda remains. Here, it is Aikyam. That's why even in emotion, in love, they say we should become one, isn't it? We are one. We should become. How can we? How is one? Two bodies will remain as two bodies only. Two bodies will still remain as two bodies only. So what is Aikyam? It is more conceptual is that oneness. Differences, differences exist. So in all knowing, you can never, the knower can never become the known. In Brahman, as far as God is concerned, the knower cannot exist independent of the known. Why? Brahmavid, Brahmaiva Bhavati. They didn't say no God. They say you are God. They don't say this is God. They never say no God. They say Tat Tvam Asi. You are that. So what the intellect tries to understand, what the intellect is doing now, somehow the instrument wants to understand that. And anything about God, what are they trying to say? You cannot understand it through the instrument. Why? Because it is beyond the limitations of the instrument. All this you should know. Instrument means limitation. Instrument means limitation. The intellect is limited. How can you conceive of God with the limited instrument? Are you able to follow? In the example, the pot and the clay. That is why we don't use upamana a lot. I don't use examples a lot. I use logic and reason a lot, because in any example, you should know what to compare, what not to compare. Are you able to follow? In every example, you need to know what to compare, what not to compare. In the example, pot and clay, what is the point of comparison here? There's only one point of comparison. What is the point that is compared here? The pot is dependent on the clay. The clay has an independent from the pot. That's what it means. From the angle of the pot, it can never understand the clay have a the clay has a, from the angle of the pot, what the pot cannot conceive. He says chicken intellect. No, imagine pot intellect. Imagine pot intellect. The pot intellect cannot conceive of clay that is independent. It cannot conceive of that. That intellect, the pot intellect, cannot conceive of a clay can exist independent. It cannot conceive of that. But then, sir, from the clay only pot is made. If we take it beyond this point, the clay pot example itself becomes very absurd, because what is the fallacy in this example? Clay and pot. Wherever there is a clay, does it turn into pot automatically? That's not fallacy. It means there is a pot maker having a purpose to make a pot using the relevant instrument. அதெல்லாம் வந்துரும். All that comes. What is gone out? What are we trying to compare here? What are we trying to compare here? The only comparison that we are making is it is the consciousness that supports the matter, but don't assume consciousness means it has a specific role of supporting the matter. Don't bring consciousness as the supporter of matter, as though it is such a narrow role. Why? In the ultimate sense, the matter itself is mithya. That's what we are going to read later. The ultimate sense, why do we discount that? The ultimate sense, the very matter being mithya, how can the real support the unreal? The real can never support the unreal. Therefore, what is he trying to say in these three examples? Sorry, in these three words: the Akshara, the Uttama Purusha. Step by step, it has gone. The three steps. Conceivable matter by the senses, and then the imperishable. Kshara and Akshara. And then the Kshara, everything of the body, mind, and intellect is Kshara. The three bodies, the gross, subtle, causal bodies is Kshara. The waking, dream, deep sleep state is Kshara. And that which pervades these three states, that which enlivens these three states is Akshara. Then what is Uttama Purusha? Angeya Brahman vanduruthe. Then what is Uttama Purusha? Beyond all this. To understand this, what you need? With this, we conclude. Consider this. A spiritual seeker goes to Guru and asks, what is God? He is asking, what is God? Guru knows what God is. Guru knows what God is. Just because the disciple asking what is God, the Guru can't give his knowledge. Why? Because he will not understand. அதெல்லாம் நீங்க சொல்லாதீங்க சார், நீங்க எக்ஸ்பிளைன் மட்டும் பண்ணுங்க, அது அண்டர்ஸ்டாண்டிங் இல்லைன்றதை நான் பார்த்துக்கிறேன்னா it doesn't work like that. Yeah, it doesn't work like that. Why? Because you don't have the instrument. With what instrument you will understand? So he asks, what is God? He wants to communicate that, and that is so difficult to communicate. And what the Guru does, he is trying a method here. What is the method? The known to the unknown. He is trying the method. What is the method? The known to the unknown. What is known? At the grossest level, what is known? The perishable world is known. Therefore, he points to the world and says, all this is God. He points out all this and says, this is God. And then you can get a misunderstanding. What? This particular name and form is God. This particular name and form is God. This particular name and form is God. And some name and form is so intolerable that you cannot accept that as God. So when he sees the world, he sees only the name and form, and he misunderstands the name and form to be God. For which he corrects that misconception and says, no. The name and form and everything is the perishable aspect. God is the imperishable aspect. So, what is this concept of God now? God is the imperishable aspect of the world. Still confined to, still the concept of God is in relation to the world only. Are you able to follow? Still the concept of God is in relationship to the world only. Now he wants to correct that misconception. That's the challenge. Shara Nakshara is easy. Uttama Purusha is the most challenging because still the concept is, still the disciple understands the limitation in relation to the world only. God is that, God is the imperishable aspect of the imperishable aspect in the perishable. Correct. Right? Now I know what God is. For which he says, no. God is the supreme being that transcends the Kshara and the Akshara. That transcends the Kshara and the Akshara. We'll conclude with the example that he gives in the book. What is the example he gave? Imagine a person who has no knowledge of mud. A person has no knowledge of mud at all. He is born invalid. He has never moved out. So he has never seen mud. The question that he is asking is, what is mud? He is asking you, what is mud? And you look around. How to teach him what is mud? You look around. And then there are three pots, three mud pots, red, blue, and green in color. So you show those three mud pots and tell him, that is mud. When you say that, what you are saying is correct, but how he will understand it? The name, the shape, the form, the color is mud. So he will think mud means blue, red, blue, and green in a particular, for which you say, no, no, no. You pulverize the pots and just show him and say, the color and form are the perishable aspect of the mud. The stuff with which the pot is made is mud. Now you have a handful of mud. Okay. What is his misconception now? His conception of mud is, now I understand. Mud na ivladhan. Everyone follow? Now he says mud means only this much. To correct the second misconception, mud lies all over the world beyond the powder in the apartment. Beyond the perishable aspect and the imperishable aspect of the pot is the Uttama Purusha. Thus the three steps becomes a gradual education. Gradually educate a person where, to whom all this is explained, where no experience, where no direct experience of mud is possible. For who's the student that all this is addressed to? Student, you will miss the story again here. Who's the student? The person who is invalid. A person who is invalid. A person who is incapacitated. But still, you can make him understand. Similarly, the use of Trinity. The Akshara, Uttama Purusha is an essential, logical way to impart the knowledge of the God. To begin with the known world and move gradually to the unknown Akshara And then you have to stretch. You have to stretch yourself into the vastness of Uttama Purusha. And Uttama Purusha again is not an intellectual concept. Please understand. Again, Uttama Purusha is not an intellectual concept again. What does Uttama Purusha means here? Indescribable, inexplicable, inconceivable. This one, again you get into another problem. What? Now I know what God is. What is God? What is God? Indescribable, sir. God cannot be defined becomes the definition of God. Now, God cannot be defined is not the definition. Huh? It's a statement saying that you have no way of knowing it. You have no way of knowing it. Knowing is not possible. Aikyam is possible. This way Vedanta says Jiva, Brahma, Aikyam. Aikyam is possible. Aikyam means oneness. Again, don't make the mistake of saying God cannot be. What is the definition of God? In Vedanta class, we are taught what God can. What is the definition of God? God cannot be indescribable. God cannot be seen. God cannot be felt. God cannot be thought of. Is not a definition of God. What it means is it is a unique. It is very unique. What is the uniqueness here? The knower becomes the known. Always remember this. Yeah. What is understood when we study thesis on God and all that is, we have done all this basic knowledge, we have gone through all this basic logic and reason, and we have understood all this. That is implied. But then what do I do? Wherever we get a chance, I try to explain this also. What is it? In every knowledge, in all knowledges, the knower is separate from the known. You know the car, you don't become the car. Here it's a different knowing. What is it? Brahmavit, Brahmaiva Bhavati. The knower becomes Brahmavit. Brahmavit means the knower of Brahman. Brahmaiva Bhavati becomes Brahman. Therefore, the knower of Brahman becomes Brahman. To explain this, three words he uses in the Bhagavad Gita. The Akshara, and the Uttama Purusha. And then he will go on to pointers. Next class we will move on to the various having said God is another ஒரு topic ஒரு வாரம் எடுத்துக்கிறோம் இல்லையா? So that what is discussed in the previous week will be forgotten in the session. So having said Kshara, Akshara, Uttama Purusha, we will be discussing pointers to Brahman. Some pointers. We'll continue with pointers to Brahman.